I got into this world a year ago, but I was in corporate America for like 12 years, 15.
You're in this space, you've got some experience, you want to talk to people. Real quick, back up. You said you worked in corporate America. What is like your job prior to this?
I worked for Johnson & Johnson for 10 years.
Yikes.
I know.
I could tell you that too, because when you came in, my door handle was kind of sticking to you. It was, But no, okay. So corporate America, work for Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah. So like I've done that whole world, and it was not necessarily very fulfilling. So I did a lot of work on myself and did a lot of therapy, lots of attachment, lots of, lost my dad at 10, classic like daddy issues.
Okay.
Yeah. So just wanted to understand men at a deeper level because I couldn't really vibe with them. Like the relationships were always ending, and there was always these like cycles, things that were happening. So I'm like, all right, there's clearly patterns. Mm-hmm. There's clearly something happening here. It might be me, might be them. I need to figure this out.
Okay.
But I guess
was this prior or post engagement and then separation?
This was after engagement. So we had a huge, it was like 6 days before the wedding. Shit blew up, and
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was like.
Do you say what happened?
Yeah, he was. I kind of hated him.
Okay.
And he kind of.
And it took you 6 days before the wedding to realize that?
Yeah, but it was like respect was not a cornerstone of the relationship. Like,
okay,
it was. He was mean, I was mean.
Oh, sure, okay.
We were like trauma bonded through an experience.
How long were you guys before? How long were you guys together before you got engaged, or before the breakup? I guess. Yeah.
Not really long. Not really long. We lived in Texas at the time.
Okay.
So he was. We were both. That's what you do in Texas. You just get married at like a certain age. So I had these. I was Catholic, 4 older brothers, and they're like, you know. This is the next step, right? Mm-hmm. Like these are the things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have kids. Like, take these steps, and you shall be free.
Sure.
And live on.
And when you said you weren't dating for long, does that mean like 2 months or like 6 months or like a year before you got engaged?
A year. Okay. A year.
Not too bad.
It was decent, but he had kind of severe social anxiety. I'm kind of an extrovert. We started really kind of diverging in our value systems. Mm-hmm. But at that point, it was like, all right, you got to break up. You got to figure out what is causing the breakups, what's causing the patterns. And like, not that there was no fault. Like, it was just take a minute. So then fast forward, 5 years later, I just started posting shit online and just having conversations. But then I got thrust into this weird space.
Okay.
That's the red pill, and so I tried to stay away from it for a while, and now I'm like, why not? Fine.
Hopping in on the back end as it is, and it's potential death throws right now. We're not entirely sure about.
I don't really know. It's interesting because I was on what's her Saucecast or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And
Adam, yeah.
He's like the 21-year-old that just doesn't want to grow up. Like,
wow.
What's
as a friend of Adam, I'm gonna say.
Oh, really? Ooh,
we're friendly.
Me.
We're friendly.
Tell me more.
What about him?
Well, what do you think? Like, what's the
what?
What's the vibe? Because I don't know him that well, but
I think that he aligns a little bit too much with some of the red pill stuff, so I'll kind of fight him on that. Yeah. Honestly, my biggest issue with him is I kind of feel like, I say issue, but we just run our shows differently. He tries very hard to like keep the peace. So if he's got like people on a show and they're giving a particular point of view, he doesn't want people to like super fight and get at each other's throats a lot. But I think that generally from what I've heard about like finance and self-improvement and stuff, I generally agree with. But then once we start to wander into some of the dating areas, I feel like I disagree. But like, yeah, we've argued about this. Yeah. Maybe
that's the only, that's the only context that I have is just obviously one piece of the puzzle of knowing him for an hour, but sure. I felt like he was recycling the same stuff.
Yeah, he's done a lot with like, I think he did a big show with Fresh and Fit and everything recently too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And you're betrothed. But anyway, I'm just trying to understand. Like, and then I went on Fresh and Fit last night, and are you friends with these guys? Like, is it just a show? Is it like...
No, I think they believe it all. I think they live it in their lives and everything. Yeah.
And are you like...
Listen, you can be as savage as you want. Don't worry about who I'm friends with. I would say that I have a mutual respect for the one called Myron on the show.
The big guy. The tall guy.
Tall guy, yes.
Yeah. Except that he doesn't look you in the eyes at all. Does he have like social anxiety?
I don't know. I think he probably will. He's probably just like, because he's running a show, he's like trying to look at everything. I think he will sometimes. But sometimes he does this thing where he's kind of talking. He's like, he's got that look. He's like very intense. I've got a lot of professional mutual respect for him. And then like on a friendly level, he's like never done anything weird or. But obviously, I completely disagree with every single thing they say, insofar as like their red pill stuff and everything goes. So every time I go into the show, we'll like fight over that, and then we go to dinner, and then we fight over that. But yeah.
So you'll like go to dinner and be like chummy with him.
Yeah, I would say chummy. But like, I mean, yeah, he knows where we stand. Like, we obviously completely disagree on every lifestyle choice with each other. Yeah.
Does he have a girlfriend, or does that lifestyle working for him?
Okay. This is. I try to make it a point not to. I will criticize I think that the lifestyles they advocate for and everything are horrible, but I don't think he generally brings his relationships out to like fight battles. So I try not to attack his relationships. Like for instance, they disagree with my lifestyle. Like I have an open relationship, but if somebody brings me up personally, he's not going to be like, oh yeah, like he's a cuck watching his wife getting BBC blah, blah, blah. Like he's never done that to me, so I'm not going to sit here and shit on his.
He's never said. I mean, I think so. I mean, he's definitely called you that.
No, I don't think. Has he?
Bro.
What?
He's definitely like the whole red pill space just
the whole red pill space does, but he particularly, I haven't seen him attack me personally like that. We have a way.
Fair point.
There's very few people I have mutual like professional respect for, so I try to like, I'm sure that like personally he might think that, which is fine. I don't care. Like obviously personally, I have big judgments on his relationships, but I try not to like go really hard personal. If somebody else wants to go personal, then I'll go as hard. So if you want to talk about Rollo or MLD or Donovan Sharp, these guys, I'll rake these guys with a fucking coal.
Okay.
But in terms of how Myron structures his life and runs his relationships, I disagree wholeheartedly with every single aspect of it, but I'm just not going to like personally attack it, honestly.
I guess what I'd like your opinion on is where do you see him in his debate tactics? Because what I found last night that was really sad is that we were on the show with 2019 people. These girls have no ability to really form like logical arguments most of the time because they just don't have a life experience. So I felt like he was almost like a politician where I couldn't, there were so many times where he was going all over the place. Is that his debate style?
So this is what I would say his debate style like roughly is, okay? This is just a thing I do and it's gonna be horrible, but you're just gonna have to bear with me, okay? I draw things sometimes, okay? I feel like he has kind of these, I would call them, you could almost call it like a sales funnel. But I would say that he's got like these like conversational funnels where he has some points for how he thinks like relationships and the world works, whatever. And he has these like the argumentation down really, really, really well. So what'll happen is if you're having a conversation and you kind of like stumble into a topic that he like has a conversation funnel for. So like, let's say for instance, you're arguing and you're like,
well, can I tell you last night with we spent 2 hours on whether or not women cause the death of chivalry. And that was his point, is that women have caused the death of chivalry. That's why men aren't chivalrous anymore. It's your fault, social media, and women don't take it, like there's no accountability with women.
Sure. So like what you're saying right there, if I heard you start to talk about that, it feels like Myron's goal is going to be to funnel you into a conversation where he's talking about how like men are the ones that collect resources. Men have to become, women just are.
Correct.
Men have to work for things. If a man in life, he's held accountable for his mistake. A woman is never held accountable.
That's
she can fuck up. Yeah. So these are like, he's got this discourse.
Deja vu.
Yeah. He's got this dialogue memorized really well. And if you say anything even peripheral to that, he's going to push that pause button that goes, he's going to say, rewind, hold on, let me say this. And then he's going to lay out that whole thing basically. And that seems to be like his argumentative style on the podcast generally. Yeah.
Okay. But how would you defeat that? How would you go about...
If you want to, so for people that are really well practiced rehearsing these types of things, you have to have a very comprehensive attack. So like, you can't just say, well, no, I think women have to work too, because he's going to hit you up with a whole bunch of like, men don't give a how much women make. Women are hypergamous. A man is never, rich men don't get with poor women. Look at this celebrity. You're going to get buried. If you're going to attack that style, you have to be really well researched on all the things he's going to say. And then you've got to be ready to go from top to bottom. You're never, because have you ever heard of the difference between like a logical argument versus a sound argument? So like a logical argument will be like, if I say like all men are immortal and Socrates is a man, Socrates is immortal. Okay. So the argument is logical because it fits all the points. The conclusion naturally follows, but it's not sound. Because you have to fight the premises, right? Not all men are immortal, right? So the issue with a lot of the Red Pill stuff, and for Myron, all of his stuff is very internally valid. He's got a lot of consistency, and if you try to hit on any point, he'll bring in his whole worldview and crush you. You have to be ready to fight like at very fundamental levels in terms of like, do women need to work? Is it really the case that men are always held accountable and women aren't? You've got to be ready to fight on all those, and then you're probably going to have to reach into data-driven arguments to do it, because as soon as you start to fight there, he'll bring up, let's look at family courts. Let's look at who gets drafted in the military. Let's look at who has preferences when it comes to choosing whether to have an abortion or not. Like he's going to go on all these examples, and then you're going to be ready to fight on all of them. I'm sorry, I don't have there's not a shortcut answer, because Myron is very good at what he does, and you're not going to be able to just come in and slay him with like a single what about this step?
And I think if I'm being honest, right? Like I respect the hustle. I respect the business. I respect certain things about him, but it's like you're bringing on sheep to a show to just farm them. It's like, so there's no way that these girls are going to win. So they've made a business out of making these girls look like total fools.
I agree. That's always my biggest criticism of their model is it's essentially you've got like 2 or 3. You ever seen Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
You have like the heroes, okay? You've got like Gimli, you've got Aragorn, and you've got, not Dumbledore, Gandalf, okay? You've got like the 3 guys, and then you're bringing on like 20 orcs, and every time you're just absolutely demolishing them. It's a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old girls that don't have any debate experience. They're usually not the most educated. They're on a big back foot in terms of popularity. A lot of them have already been drinking a little bit before going on the show. A lot of them are very nervous because they don't have experience fighting in front of a camera. And then a lot of them just don't know these arguments. So you're lining them up, and then you're just absolutely annihilating them one after another. So I agree that I think that's a problem with the format. I think it sets them up to always look like gods.
They always look like gods. Yeah. And then they go after the personal attacks if you don't have a logical point to make. Like that's their, okay, if you're an idiot or you're over the wall, like you're worthless, you're 35, you suck. And I'm like, what? It's just almost like sitting in an alternate universe going, what was happening? Like, this is not, this doesn't do anything. There's nothing intellectual about this at all. Anyway, I digress.
No, it's a very challenging, it's a very confrontational environment to go into. Yeah. So, and then you also, as a woman, you have the added difficulty of if you fight too much, they'll just kick you off. So it's very, very challenging to excel. Right,
but then the point he was saying was at the end, he said, well, women are not critical thinkers. They don't make logical, sound arguments.
Women are emotional, men are logical.
And my point to him was like, wait a minute, isn't that the whole point of gender dynamics? Don't you talk about roles? Like, isn't it a man's role to be the logical, less emotional guy? So of course women are going to be more emotional, because if women are bringing the emotional, I don't know, if they're bringing different colors to the relationship, wouldn't you want them to be more emotional as a female?
In terms of what they want in relationships, that's a whole other, I don't know what you're looking for me to answer there. That's a whole, we just watched a clip today of a guy, like an ex/current Red Pill. Do you know who Sneeko is?
Yeah.
And he's basically saying, like, why would I ever want to have anything in common with a woman I'm dating? I'd rather date some woman who's like very young, and so I can show her the world and doesn't have any experiences yet. Why do I care like what my woman is interested in? So like these guys, their view of relationships is way wild.
Why not just prefer a girl that's not interested in the club, that doesn't go out and do those things, doesn't really talk to other guys, and just waiting to be with the right guy?
Because if you have no life experience, then you don't know what the fuck you want.
Wait, why is it even that important for a girl to have life experience?
Because wow.
Oh God. Don't bring up the age thing. 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 Okay.
You want to date a fucking yokel that has never been around shit or done shit with themselves. The stuff that I bring up in conversation that my girl doesn't know about, to me, that is to her detriment. Like when I bring up The Simpsons and she doesn't know what the fuck I'm talking about, or the fact that I had to sit her down and make her watch fucking 10 seasons of Seinfeld.
That's the most abusive thing I've ever heard Adam 22 say. I'm going to be honest, I watched a few episodes of Seinfeld. It's like, okay. Being forced to watch 10 seasons? Oof.
So you could talk about Seinfeld. You did that?
It's just like the foundational blocks of like comedy, I think. Obviously, you can go way back in time, but...
Well, yeah, you can get a girl with that experience, and then isn't that more fun? It's like, she hasn't seen Seinfeld. Great, let me show you. And then you get to see her reactions, or learning all the jokes for the first time, seeing the George dude, like, fumble around and be Jewish and stuff.
George dude.
Whatever. Like, isn't that way more fun? You're like, well, she gets to see it. Like, showing a movie to somebody when they haven't seen it is so much more fun than if you've both already seen the movie, because then you get to see the reactions and stuff. You get to tell.
But you've never been in a conversation with somebody and you realize that you have the same, box of references that you can both refer back to.
That's a
huge like bond.
Did you say that's a huge turnoff? No way did he say that. Hold on.
Of references that you can both refer back to. That's a huge like.
He's saying something different. I can't understand what he's saying. That's a huge something. I don't understand.
Bonding moment between two people. Like if I quoted a movie right now and you were just like, oh yeah, blah, 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 and you just knew exactly what I was talking about, that would make me feel like we were a little bit closer.
Did he say turn off? No shot. Really?
Between two guys, pause.
I don't see women as that different in that regard.
You don't see women as different to men?
Well, besides the dick and vagina part, not
really
as much.
Mentally,
I want to have something. You're acting like I'm crazy for wanting to have something in common with the woman that I'm married to or seeing.
That's insane. What do you want to have in common?
Bro, fucking kill me.
Like, wait, we have similarities and stuff?
Yes.
What?
And then the update. Oh, I don't know who runs this. Adam22 has been taking mad L's recently. The last time I was on the show, we got into an argument because they said if you're married or dating somebody, well, one, they don't believe in marriage anymore because they think the courts are all rigged. But then two, they think that you shouldn't live with your significant other because it'll make you weak. And you should live with a bunch of guys instead. So yeah, their view on relationships is very, 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 very wild. So yeah.
So where do you see this all going? And as a woman in this space, because there's a part of me deep down secretly that wants to just provide some sort of logic. And I think I did the best I could as the first time being there and being not necessarily knowing this and kind of knowing everything about red pill space. I have more of a kind of a psychological background. I did go to rehab. Like I've gone through my own journey of like trying to figure out stuff at a deeper level. So having those conversations with them just isn't going to happen. Like I'm not going to, I can maybe Tom Bilyeu and I, or like Diary of a CEO, we can kind of get into some of the reasons why they are the way that they are in their childhood, but they're not willing to even look at that. So a lot of my people that come to me are like graduates of Red Pill. They're like, I'm tired of being angry. Like I want to find a woman, how do I find a good relationship? What are the things that I need to do? And it's like some of the stuff that you talk about, like get rid of the nice guy bullshit, like get rid of the codependency, right? Be able to like tell a woman, sit the fuck down. I interviewed Sterling Cooper the other day, and he said one text that he sends to women I thought was actually pretty funny. It was like, you obviously haven't been spanked hard enough by...
Jesus, okay. There are some strategies that work, but it's only once you've penetrated like a certain level, like, yeah.
Of course. Like you can't start there.
Yeah.
But it's like where do you see this evolving to? Do you think it's always going to, this Rolo with his turban, like where do you see all of this happening moving forward?
I think once the Tates are gone, which is probably going to happen, they've already backed away even from the space. I think that kind of the only thing keeping the space up right now is basically Fresh and Fit. They're like the final boss, like the leaders of that space, especially Myron. I think Myron is like the de facto leader of the Red Pill. Jesus. So I think that there's going to be I think that the thing they're going to run into is a couple problems. One is people are going to get fatigued of the bring on women and shit on them for 3 hours. That's going to get fatiguing after a while, number one. And number two, I don't think any of their advice for relationships is good. At the very least, in the earlier iterations of Red Pill stuff, so like the pickup artists and stuff like that, even if their stuff is problematic, at the very least they usually had good advice for picking up women, even if some of it was manipulative. I don't even think the Red Pill stuff is manipulative. It's just, most of it is just like bad advice, like cheat on your girl to make her more competitive, or tell a woman you're never going to live with her, marry with her, or like tell a woman that like you're going to step out and other women and she has to be okay with that. Like these are strategies that like they just won't work ever. So I think when people don't get results, when they get fatigued from the constantly attacking the women, I think that they're gonna have to pivot to some other type of content. I just don't see Red Pill right now as being an effective space for young men. Like they're not gonna get the results that they want in those spaces, I don't think.
So where do you go with all, like, as Destiny, what is your main content? Like, how did you start all this?
I play video games.
That's all you do. And you just became like a major debater. Like, how did you get here with all of this?
Well, a lot of Wikipedia, a lot of Red Bull. I've always had, let's see, where do I start? I've always been a very argumentative person my whole life. I was just like, I'm an asshole. So I've always.
Do you have both parents? Are they?
Have them? Like.
Yeah, were they normal? Were they?
Nothing in my life is normal, but they're wonderful people. I love them very much.
Okay. But when did you figure out that you were gifted?
Well, gifted
in a good way.
Well, I don't want to brag, okay, but I got the golden chocobo in Final Fantasy VII without using a single guide the entire time. I just went back to this chocobo stage and talked to him over and over and over again. No, I don't know. I went to like a really good private high school. So like even in that area, I wasn't like even close to the best. Like there were kids going to Harvard and shit. Yeah, so, but I've always been like decently good at, my strength is that I've got a wide variety of interests and I can wear a lot of different hats. So like I'm very big into gaming, but I'm also big into girls. I very much like my alone time, but I'm also like very social, like be extroverted. So I just have like a wide collection of traits, and then I'm like really empathetic and I can learn information decently fast and kind of like put it together. So that's like my strength. And in this world of people, it makes me a god, basically, because people aren't willing to read past the headline in an article, essentially. So in around 2016, I used to be a semi-professional StarCraft 2 player. I don't know if you've ever heard of that game before, but
no.
Okay, don't worry about it. Well, you should. That's pretty sad you heard of it. But no, so I used to be a semi-professional StarCraft 2 player, and then around 2016, when Donald Trump came about, and everybody in the United States decided that they needed to learn politics about every single issue, I was one of those people, and then I started arguing with people, and then it's kind of grown from there. So I do generally like politics was my bread and butter, and then about a year ago I started to kind of get more into like this very weird red pill space, because I like hookups and all this stuff is stuff that I have like a lot of interest in, and when I hear people saying like incredibly crazy shit about male-female dynamics and everything, it's very interesting to listen to it, and it's fun to go in and fight with them. So then over the past probably year I've been doing a lot of like fighting in these spaces, and then I also do political content. But yeah,
so the one thing I guess that's like very personal to me is their perception of women like as they get older and as they kind of move through the dating space, and the expectation that women are just these womb producers of children.
Not even. They say that, but none of them have kids. Notice that?
None of them have
but
kids.
I know that, yeah.
None of I don't know what their relationship status is.
They're not married, no kids. They're usually dating a bunch of like Instagram girls, strippers, and OnlyFans girls and stuff. Yeah.
Like Rolo's been married for God knows how long. I don't really know what they offer to the space, but it's like I kind of want to talk about as a woman kind of how that lands on me. And the fact is that there are women out there that like don't care to be mothers, or that don't really feel as though they're destined for that. Do you think that I want you to like challenge me on this. Like I want to have a discussion about women having to be mothers. And then also it's like, if my pool is getting smaller, my argument is that it's not getting smaller, it's just different. Like attractive women will always have an available option of men. Like there will always be a pool for attractive women. I think as you get older, whether you are a man or a woman, because of the people that I coach in particular, I see a ton of men who are in their 50s and their 40s who are really struggling in the dating market, and they feel like they're aged out. So is it a gender thing, or is it just the fact that you get more picky as you get older? Is it the fact that you've gone through more experiences, that you've healed yourself and you're willing to put up with less bullshit? Is it that, women are more willing to be with men that have children versus other way around? Like what are kind of some of the dynamics, and like, do you think that women are going to regret? Because there's a bunch of us who have taken on kind of a different role in our lives and have said, you know what, there's other things that are really, really fulfilling. And I was watching on the way here a little bit of like Tom Bilyeu. You guys kind of got a little bit into the conversation of he's not going to have kids, and him and his wife have made that decision. But do you think that a lot of us women who are kind of going in a different direction, and I mean, I'm not like barren. I don't know if the point is like in an ideal world, you would want to meet the right person to raise a child with. And in my opinion, after seeing kind of a lot of the people that I grew up with that are going through the divorces now, they got married way too young and they made poor choices. And now they're divorced, and now they're single, and now they're raising kids. So what is the right answer here?
So here's something that I think. This is something that I feel very strongly about.
Oh, we're drawing pictures again?
I like pictures, okay? I'm a big picture guy, okay? I think that for a long time, biologically speaking, we assumed that this was men and that this is like women, and then kind of like biologically we're quite different, but we've got like a little bit in common. This is kind of like what we assume is the default function of like male and women. So we've got a little bit of shared, but biologically we've got major differences in terms of temperament, in terms of how we pursue sex, et cetera, et cetera. I think as we've kind of taken a lot of the guardrails off in society, I think that what is uncomfortable for us to realize is it's probably a lot closer to this, and that we have some differences on the side, but we have a lot in common. So I think the two things that I harp on a lot where I feel like this plays out is that here's like a few statements here's three big statements that I think people generally think are biological realities, or 40 years ago they think that. One is women absolutely will never want to have casual sex. They're not wired for it. They don't enjoy it. That's just a thing that they won't want to do. Number one. Number two is women will never be happy working or pursuing careers. They would love to always be at home. They get huge biological urges to have children in their early 20s. They'll never choose careers. And three is women just don't really have the mental capacity to really compete with men when it comes to schooling. They're just not that good at like going to school, learning like math, like really boy and man stuff. And people assume that these are like biological realities that we're never going to be changing. And I think that what we've kind of discovered as the years have gone on was a lot of these things are true a little bit, but society had really big guardrails on pushing people in these directions. And something that I think has been surprising is as we've taken these guardrails off, we figured out that, well, hold on, women with birth control, sometimes they do like to just have sex without necessarily having a family. Women given the opportunity to actually don't want to throw away, I don't want to say throw away, that's mean, but they don't want to spend their entire 20s raising kids and not working and not pursuing a career, not traveling. And women might actually even be better than men when it comes to learning in colleges. They don't have to worry about ADHD. They don't want to run around and be as physically active as much. And even in things like math and stuff, women do really well, given proper support and everything. So now we're at this really strange point where we assumed that biology was going to keep a lot of our inner sexual and kind of like macro relationship dynamics kind of on rails, that biologically we're wired this way. But now we're entering a world where a lot of women are choosing to work. A lot of women are like, okay, I don't necessarily need to be with a husband. My relationships with my friends are really fulfilling. If I want to have sex, I can. I've got the pill. I'm not going to get pregnant. I don't need a husband for sex if I want to do that. And like traveling the world and being free and doing all this is really fun. And without that big biological drive that we thought women would have to always want to have kids in their early mid-20s, with that not being there, we're in a really weird spot right now where we're trying to figure out like what are the obligations that women ought to have for society. And that's where
that's a good, I've never heard it that way.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about. Whenever people are saying like, we're not having enough kids, what they're really saying is women need to stop taking birth control, women need to stop going to school, and women need to stop working, and they need to have kids.
Right.
They don't say that directly, but really that's what they're saying. And that's never going to happen. It's like a Pandora's box. Like women are never going to be like, yeah, it's just not going to happen. So that's kind of, I think those are like the crossroads where we're at. And that's like what's kind of making the world very complicated to maneuver in the West right now, that women have kind of evolved over time to get all of these extra like masculine features in terms of working and casual sex and all this other stuff. And men are just kind of like sitting here where it's like, well, I work a job, like why don't I have a wife? That's how it worked 100 years ago for my grandfather, my father, yeah.
So where do you think men are failing when it comes to women? Because I'm a coach for men because they don't know how to talk to them. A lot of the guys that I coach are kind of the nice guys, right? They typically didn't have a father, or they're afraid to be like that guy. They just have no kind of spatial awareness of women. So it's like, are women being as hard as we think? Is Fresh and Fit right about women? Are they as crazy as what has OnlyFans done to society versus are men really afraid?
The way that I would see it is that for a long time as a man, in order to get a wife, all you really need to do is work a job. as long as you're working a job, because women aren't working, and if women want a family, you kind of need the guy for the paycheck. And that's really all you had to do. So I feel like, so socially speaking, if we call like working and stuff like the masculine, and if we call being like emotionally communicative, nurturing, taking care of household, we call that like the feminine. These were kind of the roles that were relegated to each side, socially speaking. Now, as time has gone on, we've pushed women a lot to assume more kind of like masculine roles. And they've done a really good job at stepping into that. They're working jobs, they're killing us in school, they're starting to make more and more money. In certain communities in the United States, they're even more educated, and they're about to start out-earning their male counterparts. And we've spent all this time investing in women and watching women grow. And I think there's a couple of things that work. One is we've invested a lot of like social time. Like we really want like women. Really do that a lot. And we're also kind of like fuck men, rapists, losers, whatever, which kind of sucks. But so that's that big social push one. And then number two, I feel like even though everybody will fight against this, the reality is historically speaking, masculine features have always been like really cool, and feminine features have always been like presented as like kind of dog shit. Like people will say like, no, there's a lot of honor in like nurturing. But like when you're looking at movies and like even the cool women superheroes all have traditionally masculine features. So, you know, like strength and self-reliance and high self-esteem, self-determination. They're like independence, all of this stuff. So as women gather those skills, men are kind of sitting here on the side. Their masculine skills are not there. They don't want to work on any feminine skills. And when I say feminine skills, I mean things like just being able to have a conversation, being emotionally communicative, like because that's gay and they don't even want to waste their time with that. So they're like, men are just like in this eternally fucked spot. And then when it comes to people talking to them, the left doesn't want to talk to men because the left hates men for most of it seems like it. And the right, people don't want to listen to Jordan Peterson. I thought for the most part did a pretty good job, but now like the new Redpill space is giving like the worst advice, which is like all the femininity. You need to be ultra masculine, but like most of these guys don't even have the self-confidence to talk to a woman, let alone have the absurd level of hyper masculinity you would need to completely neglect any feminine side and like go chase women. So like everything is just right now in terms of the advice.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to bring up Adam again, and whatever, I'll bring up Fashion Fit. It's when we were on the podcast and trying to have a conversation about this, he didn't understand the concept of a woman wanting a man to be emotionally, like, who would you want? A guy who's making 100,000 or a guy who's making 6 million? Here are your options. The guy who's making 6 million, maybe he's a partner at a law firm. Maybe he is Deloitte & Touche. I don't know where he's at. But he's working a shit ton of hours. A lot of the times he's not going to be present. A lot of times when you do take a vacation, he's got his laptop open. And he didn't understand the concept of like, why wouldn't you be okay with that? Why wouldn't a woman be okay with her man being the provider, being the guy who brings all the money home, but you know, he provides you with this amazing life. And I just don't think that they understand the concept of like, women want an emotional connection. Like they want you to be present.
I think a lot of it is, unfortunately, at this point in these spaces, the only way I can describe it is selection bias. I think that there are a lot of women that will choose the millionaire with the poor social skills. They're all just like 18 to 21 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they don't know anything.
Exactly. But that's also why, but there's two big things on. One, a lot of the women that get invited to these spaces are those ages. Right. And two, a lot of these guys tell you exclusively to date those types of women because they only want to deal with the women that only have money or that are only seeking guys for like these really shallow things. But the reality is, and this is something that
because they won't challenge them.
Sure. There's a variety of reasons. That's one of them.
Anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, like if you talk to anybody that's like sustained any like successful relationship, one where both partners love and respect each other and have fun and like communicate, and not just like where you fuck once a week and then go hang out with your boys the entire time. You can't buy love from a partner. Like there's no amount of money that I could throw at my significant other that would like compensate me like skipping a week vacation. Like that would just never, like if I'm like, I'll give you $1 million, she'd be like, I hate you, like I'm divorcing you. Like it would be, and I'm pretty sure if you talk to most wealthy people that are working hard to maintain their relationship, they're just this myth that like, oh no, the woman just wants to be there for the money and the resources and then she'll be happy. That's absolute bullshit. Unless you're specifically looking for that type of woman, or she's 19 years old, right? So yeah, I think for a lot of these guys, the only reason, because just me personally, this is only anecdotal, I've never spoken to another successful, wealthy person, and I've spoken to a lot who say exactly what I'm saying, the contrary to what these Redpill is saying. I've never talked to these people like, yeah, my wife is really cool, we don't really hang out as much, I don't talk to her or whatever, but like I got so much money, she's never gonna leave me. Like unless you literally, that's like a sugar baby arrangement, you know, or sugar daddy arrangement, yeah.
So I've been here in Miami for, I don't know, a couple of days. I was in Fort Lauderdale before this, and it's it's weird, dude, because I grew up poor, like shit for nothing. SpaghettiOs, dad died, got on, I was actually a Democrat for a long time because the social programs raised us because we had to be on these.
Yep. Now you want to pull up the ladder? Okay.
Well, what?
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Maybe a little bit. Politics is not my thing.
That's good. Okay.
I'm not well versed as far as politics, but what I'm noticing is like the new money versus the old money. Like having a discussion, I want to have a discussion about that. Is like Miami is this place where all I see is this like new, flashy. I have a ton of money. Like their self-esteem, their worth, like everything seems to be anchored to that. And I wonder kind of like what happens, because you have generational wealth and you have these people that seem to be very grounded in who they are. Like like money doesn't come to the equation of like, wow, awesome bag, or for women it's Gucci, for men it's like Lamborghini, like whatever, it's like something happens where their worth gets tied to this orifice that they have on their body or outside of their body. And it's what happens, and I'm seeing it so much in Miami, and that's not right for me. It's like 401k. It's like let's put something in Tesla. It just doesn't define me. It doesn't define my self-worth, because I had to figure out who I was at such a young age. And like, plus when I like had a pretty bad like benzodiazepine addiction because losing my dad.
Really big fan of Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah, love him to
Yeah.
death. No, I mean I can relate. I mean, and they prescribed it to me. It was a sleep aid after going through this whole bullshit engagement thing. But going into rehab was all about being detached from things, like having ultimate detachment, because those things control you, and there is no worth in that equating to self-worth. So I don't know. I'm trying to make a correlation between Redpill on what they think about worth and why do they do this? It doesn't make any sense to me.
So here, this is how I describe it, and this is a very hard thing to understand for people that don't have self-confidence. Basically, what happens is you have like this, you have like a very foundational, we'll call it, I would call this like self-confidence or self-esteem. And usually high people with high self-esteem have all of these types of things. Usually these things will follow. But what the red pillars do is, instead of ever building this, they try to build like this, right? So for instance, there might be a guy who worked really hard since he was a child, helped with his father's business, like took on a bunch of responsibilities, built a business, became wealthy, did all these things. He's a good man. He's got a good wife or whatever. She's attractive, everything, blah, blah, blah. But when they look at that guy, they're like, okay, he's got money, he's got a wife that's attractive, he's got a family, he's got his own business. Okay, I'm gonna start drop shipping on Amazon for 7 years until I've grinded enough crypto to bag a 19-year-old hottie. But what they're doing is they're going after all of these like peripheral shows of like confidence rather than the actual confidence itself. And this is usually what I fight with them all over, because I feel like the existence they strive for is very hollow. Like I drive like a $40,000 car, and there are people that are worth like 1/50th as me renting Lamborghinis to drive to podcasts.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, who are you putting on a show for right now?
Yeah.
Like, I have never in my life felt the need to flaunt my wealth, right? Like, I wear sweatpants most places, and I understand different people move their ways. There's nothing wrong with having nice clothes or whatever. But like you said, like I'll see girls who it's like, I'll say about it. Lady, I know you have less than $200 in your bank account, and you've got like a $7,000 bag. The fuck are you doing with your life right now, right? Yeah. So but it's because they want like the money things, because they think that if they have that, it emulates the. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it the attention that they're getting? That is like a self-esteem boost. Like, wow, you have a nice bag, or like, wow, that's a great shirt, or ooh, nice Lamborghini. Is that the hit that they're looking for? Like the hit of dopamine? Like, oh, I have a beautiful bitch on my arm, she's 19, like she's skinny, she's gorgeous. Like, is it the attention?
Because if you have those things, what it really means is you're a good person. That's what they're signals for. Bad people, like if you're a good person, you've got women with you. If you're a good person, you've got money. If you're a good person, you've got a business. And in a way, those things can be proxies for it. Good people probably tend to be more successful than bad people in general. But when you only go after the peripheral things, it's very hollow. Yeah, it work the same way. That's how you get these people who have become millionaires selling self-help courses and shit, who will say things. I've argued with them on the show. I've had a guy say, it's funny you brought up that old money, new money thing, because I discovered this like 2 months ago, and I've used these arguments a lot. You'll have guys saying things like, if I dated a girl once that made $300,000 a year, and I dated a girl that made nothing, and they were both the same person to me, neither of those things mattered. And I'm like, what a weird thing to say. And it's like, I don't care if my girlfriend is successful, or I don't care if she like goes to school or works or anything. Like, I just want her to be good for me. And I'm like,
do you
okay,
believe that?
Yeah, for these guys, I think they do feel that way. They don't care. I don't think the women are the same, but I think they don't care. But then the issue is, if you think a little bit down the road, like, okay, well, you want these relationships to work a certain way. Keep in mind that any girlfriend that you wife up, this is like the mother to your children.
Right. Like, she's like a total idiot. Like, she's going to be staying home educating your children.
Exactly. But these guys, and you can try this if you watch their shows, if you see my appearance in these shows, like, I'll ask them point blank, like, do you think that like a billionaire would date a girl that like works at Starbucks? And all of them ubiquitously immediately, yes. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Like, millionaires, all these wealthy guys always going to Targets and Starbucks. Those are the baddest girls. Those are the best girls to be with or whatever. And I'm like, you're delusional. But I also realize they're not delusional. It's a new money versus old money thing. Because a new money, the only one that has like all of this, you're the only one that has the money. You're the only one that has the expectations. For old money, when you're dating people, you're thinking like, is this person going to get along with my family? What is my mom and dad going to think if I bring this person home? Are they going to like steal my fucking money? Like my dad's inheritance, right? Yeah. So. Well,
and it from a class system. So my grandmother was English, right? I was shipped off when I was 13 years old to go spend summers with her. So I learned really quickly about the English class system. You were judged by your accent. So you can't even get away with...
Wait. Wait, do you speak another language?
No.
Oh.
It's Cuban Spanish.
Oh, okay,
my
gotcha.
mom was like, my dad watered down the gene pool. So,
okay,
but
gotcha.
the story is... Do you really want to know the story of my family?
Yeah, sure, go. Tell me, hit me up, yeah. Wait, my stream just reset.
They were in Cuba... They went to Jamaica. This was all when they were British colonies.
Okay.
As far as the Caribbean islands.
Gotcha.
And they went through their independence, like Bob Marley, freedom fighters, shit hit the fan, like people's wrists were getting cut off with their Rolexes on them. So they ended up in London or Canada, typically, like what happens whether they would come over, or Fort Lauderdale. This is why there's such a huge population here of Spanish people.
Sure. My mom is Cuban, so I know all the Mario boat lifts and all that shit.
Okay. So then, anyway, so I would go over to London. And, my grandmother basically taught me how to be a lady, skirts, this and that, how to cut the crust off of the English sandwiches. And anyway, so it's like you learned from a young age, like she did have old money, like it was old money. So you don't bring someone home that couldn't fit in. Yeah. And especially... You can't hide that. Like, it's an accent thing. Just like if you go down to the deep south, right? You're like,
even in the United States, it's even like, you're going to hear the way that people talk, even the way that people look. I noticed this in some videos I watch, like, you can actually tell who like grew up wealthy. Their skin is perfect, their teeth are perfect, their hair looks a certain way, they wear certain clothes. And I don't mean Gucci or Prada. Right. I just mean the way that they look is very nice. And then also something that I don't know, because I don't come from old money. I'm one of these new money losers. But like, I'll have people email me and tell me that like a lot of in these older money families, women are very, very important for social status, because when the man is working and stuff, the woman is the one talking to people in other households, like kind of like arranging things with people in the neighborhood or whatever, that like your wife is like a really important thing and kind of like maintaining that status in the family and everything, reaching out to family and everything. So it's not going to be a random Starbucks barista. No offense to any woman working at Starbucks, but yeah.
So for us growing up as a kid, gaining self-esteem was I learned how to play instruments. Like I became a singer. I got good grades. Like learning to esteem yourself outside of money, I think is a critical lesson. And that's what I'm trying to teach guys like I coach, is that if you have no self-esteem, there's zero tactics that you can use to get women, because women will sniff that out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think that's when I was going to say this earlier. Yeah. There is no such thing as a nice guy. It's usually just a guy with no backbone. And I think that I say this is true. People always say that it's not true. Wait, did my kick stream just die? Okay, as long as my kick stream is working. I think it is. Okay.
Oh, thank you. You said I love these types of guests. I was intimidated, honestly. Like you're such a good debater. You're so intelligent that I'm like, oh my God, shit. Destiny.
No, you're fine. I practice a lot, and these guys will suck up to me. So, but one of the things I say a lot is that like the least attractive quality, the most unattractive quality I think that any person can have, man or woman, is always being too clingy.
Of course.
And it's like and for a lot of guys that are like nice guys, like if you're talking to a guy, I think you can very quickly tell he's just saying whatever he thinks I want to hear. And in the guy's perspective, he's like, I'm being so nice to this woman. Like I agree with everything. And she's just like, I'm so disconnected.
Well, how clued in are you into like codependency and how that forms, and like how are you into the psychology world at all, or?
I am. When you say codependency, that's a very big trigger word. That's
okay.
Just gross to me. But I am. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Why is that gross? I mean, I'll tell you. I'll tell you why I think. Look, I mean, I think that there are levels. I think everybody is codependent to an extent.
Yeah.
And I think the word kind of gets. It's definitely kind of like a feminized word in my experience, but I also went to like a rehab facility that really the co-founder of that, Pia Melody. Are you familiar with any of her stuff? Pia Melody?
But go ahead.
She's she basically kind of came up with the word, and that people use relationships as kind of addictions, right? You know, because they didn't have a secure foundation with their parents, then they go and they like cling on.
Yeah, I've seen there's a lot of like really unhealthy like archetypes that get together, and I think when I think of codependent, the worst archetypes that are drawn to each other is you've got the fixer archetype, where they really like being around broken people because it makes them feel needed when they feel like they can help somebody. And then you've got the perpetually broken archetype, the person who never wants to help themselves, but they're always going to complain and like woe is them and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I'll see these two people like get sucked together, and it's unhealthy for both sides. If either side improves, the other side hates them, so they constantly keep each other down. It's like the worst. But yeah, I'm sure there's like healthy forms of like codependency as well. Like you want to have some level of like reliance.
I'm needy as fuck, and I like completely admit that. You know,
Sure.
if you're if you ignore me for 10 hours, I'm gonna be like, where the fuck are you? You're triggering my abandonment. What do you think about girls with daddy issues? What does that mean to you?
I feel like everybody has issues with their parents. I guess it depends on it depends what you mean by that, because a lot of people have issues with their parents, and those play out in a lot of different ways.
Well, don't you think that these guys, especially in the Red Pill, go after, like, they have a certain archetype. The Tates know how to groom or how to spot these types of women that are highly insecure. So, like, what are these types of women?
I think they want young, stupid women that don't have the experience to recognize when game is being ran on them. That's what I think. And then also don't know what are good boundaries to have in a relationship. In my opinion, and this is
and
where...
you learn all of that. You're saying, like, you learn that when you're younger.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And this is why, like these are the hills that I'll die on, because we fight forever on this shit. Like, I'm 34 now. Assuming my relationship with my wife were to end, if it were, hopefully it doesn't, but assuming that was Destiny YouTube stream ended, was intention. No, for some reason my internet like died, but then the YouTube stream cut off, so I would have to like set up a whole new YouTube stream. But I'm not streaming for that much longer, so you can have the rest on kick. Okay, get fucked. But like if I was to go after like another relationship right now, like the floor for age would probably be like 25 to 30 depending. Like it sounds stupid, but like associating with people that are 30 plus is nice, because usually they're very quick to know what they do want and what they don't want. But people that are sub 30, especially people sub 25, will say they want things or will be excited to try things, but they have no fucking idea. They truly don't. And it's very easy to intellectualize kinds of relationships or intellectualize types of people. And then once you start to get the experience, you're like, I actually really don't like this. So for instance, like my wife is very young. She's 10 years younger than me. So when we started dating, I remember, and I even told her when we were initially hanging out, I was like, listen, like right now we've met in another country, we're on vacation, it's a lot of fun. I work a lot. I'm very independent. I like, just so you know. And she's like, oh no, like that's cool, that's fine. Like I love that about guys, blah, blah, blah. But then when we came back and started living here, it was not good. That was a really big schism in our relationship. And she's had to like learn and grow a lot. And she's done that while making a lot of concessions to me, because I'm not going to change that much.
Is it because was she not working at the time? Like, was there something? Because if she's sitting here and doing nothing and just like watching
that was
you,
part
like
of
if
it.
she has no life, no friends, like nothing, no purpose, then like of course she's gonna look to you, going, hey, like what do I do with this?
No, that was part of it. Our situation was very complicated. She worked in Sweden for like 2 or 3 years, and she saved, or I think it was 1 or 2 years. She saved up a bunch of money, and then she went to New Zealand with all her saved money to just like drive around in a van, do drugs, explore, have fun. That was like her life. And then I met her, and then when I took her, I abducted her, kind of. When we started to date, she had to come over to the United States, but she doesn't have a work visa. She's not like a streamer like me. So yeah, she was like really bored and didn't have much to do. And I'm like fucking working, 14 hours a day. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't her fault or anything, but I'm saying that like as we grow, it's scary to kind of date younger people, because if you start dating like a 23-year-old and you're like 30, by the time they hit 25, they might realize, I actually don't want this type of relationship. And then you're like completely fucked, because chances are like by the time you're 30, you're going to know more what you want.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is there, when you say kind of your age preference, why? Kind of what's your reasoning for kind of dating? For me, I honestly go 5 years younger and 5 years older, or 10 years older. Sometimes though, dating older guys can also come with this baggage. As a woman, dating somebody who's 50, sometimes he can be stuck in his ways, and there is benefits to kind of dating younger men, because they are not as jaded. Like sometimes they haven't gone through the divorce, or they haven't.
This is the sad reality, and it's so
totally
difficult.
Yeah.
The issue is that, are you single right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't take this personally.
No worries.
But usually when people are single, like over 25, over 30, you actually, well, no, this is impersonal because you will know this. Yeah. Trying to find single people out there, it's a lot different, because a lot of them are fucked up in a lot of ways, and a lot of them do have a lot of problems.
Totally.
There's been a lot of, because I'll say that like it's fun for me to meet people that are my age, because it's a totally different experience to talking to another 23-year-old and I have to hear about like school and mom, and they don't want to do life, and it's like I don't care about any of this shit. Okay, but like there's a lot of people that I meet where I'll meet like a wonderful person, and they'll be like 32 years old, and I'm like, you're like so cool, you're so hot, like everything's awesome, like I don't know how you're single or whatever. And after about like 2 to 4 weeks, I'm like, I absolutely know why you're single.
Why? Oh, tell me.
Well, usually it'll be because they've got like a lot of issues that they haven't worked on at all. It might be like massive codependency issues. They might be like massively rude or disrespectful, no respect for other people's space or time. There's like a plethora of issues. Sometimes you will find people that are like out of relationships, or people that have put in the work and they have like genuinely turned around or made big improvements to their personalities as well, which I have met some of those in their 30s too, but that tends to be the exception rather than the norm. So I'm sure for you too, there's probably guys that you've spoken to that are older, and you're like, you're kind of a catch, you're like pretty cool, you seem to work a good job or whatever, and then after either dating for a few weeks or a couple
months,
you realize like, oh shit, there's a reason why you're not only still single, you'll probably forever be single. You know?
It's a hard thing, because I think that a lot of women are finding themselves like in this kind of this weird space that we would love to, it's not that I don't want a kid, it's never really been top of mind, but I don't look at a baby and go like, oh my God, like my heart is I would love that. It's like, I would rather have the partnership first. I just think that that's so much more important.
Sure.
So that's the goal right now, is just like find someone to be healthy with, but it is fucking hard. It is just really difficult to find somebody who who has gone to at least done some sort of introspection, like read a book or two, like do something.
It's hard for a lot of that too, because like the vast majority of people don't do deliberate work on themselves. They kind of just like stumble around until they get it right. So like there's probably like this like group of people in this band who can up, but they're generally right, and they'll stumble through some relationships and they'll be okay. But the people that exist outside of that norm, they're not going to be able to get it right by stumbling around, and they're not really willing to put in the deliberate effort to fix themselves. So they just end up like stumbling through relationships, and then they don't do the introspection, the meditation, the deliberate work to figure out like why it's not working. And then those are the people that you tend to end up with a lot in the older age that are single, because it's like fuck so then you're in a weird world where
they just like give up, and they're just like
basically. And then depending on who you start listening to and how you feel in life, you could feel jaded, and you start blaming everyone else around you. And once you've externalized the problem, that locus of control is moved to without your body, outside of your body, now you're never going to work on yourself. All women are fucking bitches, or all men are fucking trash, and whatever. And then you're just like done. So it sucks. I won't say it sucks. There are unique challenges to dating over a certain age.
Is this guy? I'll give you a baby if you let me stay at your place. Is he talking to me?
Well, he's not talking to me, so.
Damn. All right, dude, let's go. It's cool in my house. So Sterling Cooper said something to me that was really interesting. He said that, I said, did you ever catch any feelings for the people that you slept with as far as women goes? Like, did you have, of course, what do you think his answer was?
I mean, I would say yes. I wouldn't believe him if he says no, but you
He
can tell
said
me.
no.
Okay.
He said no. And I said, so was it the other way around? And he said,
Uh-huh.
yes, he did have a few clients that caught feelings. So going back to your point that you made, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, as far as women being able to have casual sex, being able to do kind of the things that you were drawing over here, a little bit more masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, have you ever had women that have caught feelings for you versus the other way around? Like, can we truly have sex, like as women, fighting the chemicals that are coming out, oxytocin, like flooding our system when we have an orgasm versus you don't have those chemicals? Like, how do women navigate that?
Well, thankfully, it's like 60% of women don't even orgasm during casual sex, so don't even have to worry about that. Okay, number one.
And then why is that? I want to get your opinion on that, but go first.
Mostly women's fault, I would say, actually. But
Yeah.
we can go to that. I would say that the problem is, again, this is going to be where I'll say there are going to be some biological differences, but I think there's way more in common than there is in different here. I think that anytime you get a lot of people hooking up with each other, feelings will form. I think every single female friend I have that's practiced casual sex, that is capable of doing it, has had at least one guy that gets mega dependent. The idea that there are probably some men that can sleep around and not ever develop feelings for people.
So you don't think this has anything to do with chemicals, or?
I'm sure it does a little bit. From anecdotally, it seems like women have a little bit of a harder problem with it. But I've known tons of men that get obsessed with a woman that we're friends with benefits, and I think that's okay, and hopefully she doesn't start dating a guy, and I think I got and every girl I've talked to has had at least one guy that's I fucked this guy one time and he's been texting me every single day for 12 years, right? So it happens with guys too, but I'm sure it probably happens with women a little bit more. But you have to be really, really careful. This is what I say always when it comes to things like this. When it comes to bias, people always how do you not be biased? And it's everybody's biased. The important thing is recognizing it, right? When it comes to hooking up and not having feelings for people, the thing isn't don't catch feelings. The thing is recognize when it's happening and then try to take the appropriate steps to protect yourself, rather than pretending that you can do it without a problem.
But do you think that there's a certain person, a type of person, as far as their childhood, that would lead them to catching feelings versus more than others? How do you not catch feelings?
I do. Why do you think I don't? That's funny. I wish I didn't. Yeah. So no, I absolutely do sometimes. But it really depends on the type of person.
How do you separate that then? You just know that you're coming back to your primary relationship and that's it?
I'm good at recognizing when I'm about to make really bad decisions, and I don't make them about 60% of the time. I won't make that really bad decision. Yeah.
Okay, but what does that bad decision mean? What do you mean?
Usually the
bad decision
depends.
is being into the relationship.
It's a lot of bad decisions.
Your audience is saying that I'm boring, so you guys want some fucking shit? Let's talk.
No, you're not
shit.
boring. Don't ignore chat. Never watch chat, okay?
I know.
If you were boring, the viewers would be living. They're not living.
You know what? Being a content creator, this is the biggest thing. This is the thing right here that you have to deal with the most. As far as if you don't have a high self-esteem and you're a content creator, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Because of these people. So sorry.
Yeah, don't worry about them.
No, so what does that mean, making poor decisions?
So sometimes there are certain women that I can hang around. So the biggest marker for me for relationship success, actually, it starts with chemistry. I have to have a lot of chemistry. I could be able to joke around with somebody. I want to feel cuddly with somebody. I want to have sex with somebody. That chemistry thing of that really special feeling where even if we're not having sex, I just want to lay down with you and watch a movie and hug you and stuff. That's the most important foundational thing to me. I love my wife. I feel that more with her than any other person, but I can feel that with other people too. So if there's somebody that I spend time with and I'm starting to develop a lot of romantic feelings for this person, but I know that this person is just interested in something casual, I'll usually try to slow down the conversations, or I might not even hang out with them as much physically because I know that if I go down this road, either I'm going to get mind fucked or they're going to get mind fucked. So that's kind of what I mean in terms of you recognize when things are heading in a direction that's too extreme, and then you try to extricate yourself from that situation. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be not good.
Do you have an attraction type when it comes to men or women? Is it more, are you more sapiosexual? Are you more...
I mean, there's things I like boobs and booties and all that. I think for me, I tend to go for very aggressive, red pillars are kind of like masculine women. Like I like people that like talk a lot of shit, that I can like joke around with a lot, that I can banter a lot, that are like relatively intelligent.
Okay.
Yeah, these are more my type. So like for instance, like I'm never ever gonna fuck a woman like on Miami Beach. Like it's just not gonna happen. I'm not their type. They're not my type.
Okay.
Yeah, like kind of like the club lifestyle, like that type of stuff is like I'm completely independent of that world. But if you like throw me in a college campus long enough, like I'll do really well. Because I like that's kind of like an age thing. But I mean like
Just
kind of like
nerdy.
Yeah, like nerdier alternate kind of girls or whatever, like that are, you know, sometimes play games or into like politics, like kind of like the intellectualized.
I've seen Farah. Is that her name? Farah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's cool. We don't have a romantic relationship at all, but
No, I don't. I didn't assume that at all.
sure. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
But no, that would assume that like that's kind of your
Yeah, that would be
type.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, somebody that likes to be like can like sound very bitchy, has like a lot of back and forth banter, like likes to fight a lot. Like yeah, that's like a lot of fun for me.